Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Excited to see you.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you with us today.
Welcome to the awkward, everybody joining and us just kind of saying some things and stuff until everybody gets here. We're super pumped to teach everybody about the visual learning today.
Yes, we are. So excited to be here with this amazing collaboration. And I think to be super respectful of y'all who are here on time, we're going to get started. And so, hi, my name is Kendra Bosick. I am one of the co-founders of Kikori, and I am here with Sarah and Dusty from Ink Factory Studio. So I am so excited for this collaboration. This is kind of the collaboration of my dreams. Just a little bit of background. When I first moved to Chicago a while ago, Dusty was my first ever roommate, and I've always looked up to her creativity and amazing spirit and all of the awesome things that she's bringing to the world. And so we are working together, collaborating through a platform that I've helped develop. So I just wanted to share a little bit about Kikori, the team building platform that we have, and then I'll hand it off to Dusty and Sarah to help you learn all about visual learning, how to incorporate it into your practice. So Kikori is a very cool new platform. It is a community-driven platform, which means that we have creators from all around the world who are facilitators in the arts, who have experiential learning activities. At this point, we're actually almost up to 500 activities on the platform. And our goal is to make facilitating team building activities easy and fun. So some of the ways that we do that is we align all of our activities with social emotional learning standards, 21st century skills, and sustainable development goals to show how they fit into your classroom or into your practice. And just a little bit about how Kikori works is you have the ability within the platform to discover and search for activities. Thank you, Dusty, for being my model. Save and organize your favorite activities, as well as create, publish, and share your own activities. And all of our activities follow the experiential learning cycle. This is a piece that we think is very, very important for Western society today. We see a lot of people who are really focused on the doing, the creating, but they aren't always taking the time to reflect on what happened. And so that's something that we build into all of our activities, which is play. So engaging your participants, reflecting what happened during that activity, connecting, how does what happened connect to your real life, and then growing using that information going forward. And so that's just a little preview about Kikori. And as I mentioned, Ink Factory Studio is one of our super exciting collaborators this week. So they have activities on the platform, and you are going to get to learn about them today. So I will hand it over to Dusty and Sarah. And if you have any questions, just please throw them in the chat. I'll put a couple links in there also to start. Oops, Dusty, you're on mute.
Awesome. So, while Dusty's unmuting, I could say welcome to how to use the visual language to enhance note-taking and learning. We're here from Ink Factory, and we're very excited to guide you through some exercises today.
Absolutely. And this is my first time talking on Zoom. So thanks for being patient with me. That was a joke. We tried to be funny. That was a joke. But we're super pumped to be here to teach you a little bit about how to approach the page in terms of visual thinking and visual learning. We're also super pumped for this collaboration with Kikori because, being able to really make our vision come to life through this EdTech app, I think is a super important thing for us, as well as for all the visual thinkers out there. So we always think it's fun to know where people are coming from. And we'd love to hear where you're from in chat. And also, bonus, you can tell us your favorite color if that's something that you would like to share with us, because we're super into colors at Ink Factory. And my name is Dusty. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ink Factory, and the Think Like Ink initiative at Ink Factory is a special initiative for me. And I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Awesome. I'm Sarah. I'm one of the artists here at Ink Factory, and I am the team lead for Think Like Ink. So as Dusty said, that's a lot of our educational material and teaching things like workshops. And I'm very excited to be opening up some parts of some cool exercises for visual learning. You'll also see me looking down a lot of the time, and it's because I'll be drawing. So things that are popping on your screen are what I'm doing. Since we're working on Zoom today, we wanted to add a couple of really quick Zoom rules to make sure that this runs smoothly. So for any questions or comments that you have today, you can go ahead and put those in chat. We ask that you stay muted unless we ask otherwise, just so that the highlight spots stay on me and Dusty. And also we recommend going to the video settings and uncheck mirror my video in case we end up like holding up some things that we're working on today. And lastly, you can go ahead and turn on the side-by-side mode on your screen. This can help you to adjust how large you want to see our faces and how large you want to see my screen here.
And there will be moments where my face actually turns into my hand drawing. So that's when that side-by-side mode, I think, will come into handy. That is
special guest real quick, which is
He's taking pictures in the background. We're a little goofy here over at Ink Factory. But anyway, we're going to start right off with a chance for you to win something from Ink Factory. So we're happy that you joined. And one of the things that we would like to share with you on your visual note-taking journey is a chance to win one of Ink Factory's sketchbooks. So if you enter to win, and I'll put this link in chat in just a minute, you would have a chance to win one of our sketchbooks, as well as an icon pack, which is a digital download where you could learn different icons for education and how to draw them and how to use them as different metaphors. And that giveaway link is in chat now. So at Ink Factory, our vision, our vision is a world where visuals are the universal language. And by teaching workshops like this, we get a little bit closer to that. We really believe that most people are visual learners, and science backs that up. And so by teaching more people to think visually, we can get closer to this visual, so our vision. So thank you for joining us. And you want to do this one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take it away. So to help with our vision, there are also some reasons why visual notes are super helpful just in general. They're really engaging, which means that they're visually engaging when you're watching them, but it also engages different parts of your brain while gathering information. They say that pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so it is a helpful way to clarify information that's coming in. So instead of just words trying to signify something, you can use these images to help understand more complex ideas more easily. It also makes things easier to remember when you compare them with visuals, and very accessible. So language, if that's like a barrier, then a visual language, as we hope to make it a universal language, is much easier to connect with people all over the world.
Yeah. And then our stat to share with you is that 65% of people do learn better visually. And we just wanted to call that out for all you educators and facilitators out there, because it definitely is impactful. And to give you a little taste of, in the next slide, we show you the difference between regular notes and visual notes. And, you know, traditionally there's all kinds of type text, there's all kinds of digital you know, media that's coming at you all the time. And that's what we're used to. It's what we're taught in school, but we really believe that the visual notes give you a much better way to communicate your idea, influence others, and just organize what you're thinking about. So Sarah right now is showing you the matching exercise with this visual to show you how the same information is written and displayed on the right-hand side as the left-hand side, but just in a more engaging way and in a way that your brain will remember, because those visuals do increase your data retention of the topic area. And also, who doesn't like bananas? We love bananas here.
So if you're looking at the image on the right-hand side and wondering, well, how could you possibly get all of that list of information into such an interesting and engaging visual? One large tool that we like to use is visual hierarchy. So visual hierarchy involves a lot of different things, but its basic feature is to show the importance of the information. So you're not just drawing or writing a bunch of things on a paper just scattered all over the place. It helps to organize the information in your mind, and also to show how what you write down is related to other information on the page. And this can be done in a lot of different ways. You can do contrast, which means contrast in size, contrast in color, contrast in thickness of lettering, and the size itself. So the size of a word versus the size of an image and where it appears on the page can help guide your mind when it's traveling through the information. Also using color, which we're going to talk about a lot today. And in all of those areas, we always try to make sure that we set a pattern. So any kind of different visual hierarchy that we're showing on the page, we're repeating that as a pattern, which also helps your brain to connect this information. And since we've been talking about all of this visual note-taking stuff, we wanted to just show you a couple of examples of some visual notes that we have done here at Ink Factory to get you to understand where a lot of this is coming from and where these things can kind of take you. So analog means that these are two boards that were done on actual physical boards of like a foam core kind of material, and then the artists draw on it with markers, usually in a 40-inch by 60-inch scale. And then we also do some of our notes digitally, which could come in handy in terms of teaching things, especially now when a lot of stuff is hybrid. So there's all kinds of different ways that we're using visual hierarchy in all of these notes, and utilizing the different colors and different tools that we have, both analog and digital. So Dusty, you want to talk a little bit more about the visual hierarchy?
For sure. So just to sort of summarize what Sarah said one more time, because we like to repeat things so that everybody knows that what we're saying is important. This visual hierarchy is where you live. You know, it's similar to if you were writing a 5-paragraph essay and you need an outline with, you know, a thesis statement and, you know, different kinds of sentences. It's the same thing in visuals, only our framework is this visual hierarchy. So the bigger something is, the more important it is. The brighter something is, the more important it is. The more contrast, the more important it is, and or if it has more space around it, it's more important. So this is a framework that exists in every single one of our visual notes and illustrations and videos that we create at Ink Factory. And it's a really simple way to be able to approach your page. And we'll show you some compositions later on as we're talking, but this is the framework that you need to follow, because setting a pattern for your brain is essential, because the brain naturally looks for patterns. So we know we've been talking a little bit at you already, and we want to get you practicing, get your blood pumping a little bit. So let's take it back to, you know, you're 4 years old, you're 5 years old, and you got to practice your handwriting. I know this might seem a little bit silly to you, but this is one of the most important things about visual note taking, because you can't take notes if you can't have legible handwriting. Well, that's not true. You can't share your notes well if you don't have legible handwriting. So grab your piece of paper or pencil or pen, you know, whatever tool you have with you. And as I'm talking through the slide, I'd love it if you would write the sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," as many times as you can. And as you're writing that, you want to think about drawing the letters instead of, you know, writing them. Most of us are used to typing these days. But when you actually create a letter, it exercises a kinesthetic learning in your brain that's different than when you're typing. And so as you're drawing a letter, it's you're thinking about the design of it and how it fits into the rest of the page versus just I'm trying to write a word. And what's fun about this sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, is that it uses every letter in the alphabet in a combination of letters that would actually happen in real life. You know, you could practice your handwriting A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but typically those letters aren't all next to each other in that way. So this is a fun way for typography and lettering practice to just, you know, switch it up. And we recommend writing in all caps, not because we're yelling, but because it's faster for us to write the letters that way. And it is more legible for people. The more space you have between the letters, the easier it is for people to read. So that's one thing. That's something called kerning. And you really do want to practice and go slow and steady. And it's great if you can have your letters like straight up and down, just like you see on the slide, not really slanted to the left or to the right. That's going to make it more legible. And if this feels really foreign to you because you just haven't been writing with a pen or a pencil lately, you can just start with a pen and then trace it. We're big advocates of tracing things, or start with a lighter color pen and then trace it with a darker color marker. And you'll get the muscle memory. And soon enough, you will be handwriting just like us. And after this workshop, there will be a follow-up that Kikori will send out that will have a couple of handwriting practice PDF downloads that you can trace and practice on your own time.
And a quick behind the scenes pro tip, if you saw me just writing that out at the bottom, I do have an invisible grid on my screen right now. So I was drawing with a guide underneath to make sure that my lines were straight. So that can be a great way to be practicing if you have any grid paper, or if you have any notebook paper with lines, to try to make sure that all of your letters are the same size.
Perfect pro tip.
All right, and you can go ahead and finish your last time writing this out, because we already have another exercise for you. So when you're done, go ahead and grab a fresh sheet of paper, and we're going to move on to drawing things. So after doing a handwriting exercise, we're not going to do a drawing warm up. And this sometimes can scare people because for whatever reason, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't draw. I don't know how to draw all this stuff. We're about to show you that that is false, and that there are all kinds of really, really cool things that you can create in a very short amount of time using just basic shapes. So if you have a new sheet of paper out, or whenever you're ready, you'll go ahead and draw 3 circles on your page. So you can see it on the screen. They're relatively large, and they should take up most of your page. So 3 circles, leave a little bit of space between them. I'll give you a few moments to do that. And the exercise that we're going to do is we're going to take each of these circles and turn it into something. So Dusty's going to set a timer for us, and I'll be drawing along with you. So if you need some inspiration, you can watch the screen. Dusty also will be drawing. You can see on her piece of paper over there. And we're just going to try to again, create as many things as you can using these basic shapes. And Dusty and I even can talk about some, witty banter that might inspire you to think of things to draw in circles. So hopefully you are ready now. And if you are not, you can go ahead and catch up with us. But Dusty, if you want to start your timer, how long will we have for each of the circles? 2 minutes?
Have 2 minutes.
2 minutes total?
If anybody can do that math, 2 minutes total.
Total. All right.
I can't do that math, but I bet all these other people that are smarter than me can.
20? All right, cool. Awesome. So
that's starting now.
Great. So in 2 minutes, you'll create these into images.
Yeah. So sometimes at Ink Factory, when we've got guests that come into the studio, we stop at the donut shop and we get some donuts to give to our visitors.
That's always super nice. We also have a couple of people here who like to bike to work.
You're right, Sarah. I know sometimes when I need inspiration for drawings too, I will look at my phone, and in my phone, there are so many emojis that you could draw that are in the shape of a circle.
Oh yeah. into the emojis for sure. Do you have a favorite one?
Me, I don't
Yeah.
have like favorites of anything.
You're
but
right. I should remember.
It's okay. I try so hard and I can't pick anything. But if you are hungry, maybe later we could get a pizza. Anybody up for that?
Oh, yeah, that sounds good.
It's got to be vegan for Sarah, though.
It's true. It's true. Veggie pizza over here.
Mm-hmm. Some of you out in that audience might like sports. The Ink Factory team isn't so big on them. We're a bunch of creative dorks that don't like sports that well. But if you do like sports, there's all kinds of round things that are used in sports. And I'm going to attempt to draw one of them and not forget the line. I think that's a basketball.
Looks
And
more or
for
less like one to
anybody
me.
up, and we're right at 2 minutes. All right,
Oh
so we
man,
can stop.
I didn't even finish. So hopefully you were able to create a bunch of new and exciting things. You noticed that I didn't even finish, but it's because I was focusing too much, I think, on my bike wheel. It happens. But Dusty's got like a smiley face, a donut, a basketball, a pizza, a clock, and another thing. And
This is the moon.
thank you. And the moon. So basically, the idea is that if coming up to this exercise, we had said instead, in 2 minutes, I need you to draw all of these objects, go. You'd be like, there's no way I can do this. But in reality, a lot of this stuff is just based off of very simple shapes. And a lot of the icons that we draw on our boards, we try to keep simple and we try to keep in these basic shape forms. So we're going to do this one more time, this time with squares, same context. So if you get a fresh sheet of paper, you can go ahead and draw 3 squares. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster this time, see if I can make it. And
well, it's a good thing you're going to go faster because you only get 90 seconds.
All right, well, there you go. So go ahead and draw your squares. I'll give you a few moments to do that. And then Dusty, whenever you're ready, you can start your timer.
Yeah, after I draw this 3rd square, I will start the timer. And the goal is to turn each of these squares into an object. All right, timer begins now.
Awesome.
So when I'm thinking about squares, I like to think about the cabinet. I must be hungry for an afternoon snack. There's so many boxes in the cabinet that hold all kinds of different things. Maybe this one is a pasta box.
I think some people at Ink Factory yesterday got some sushi, and there's some rice sometimes that comes in those fun little boxes. Pizza also comes in a box.
Sure does. All kinds of things comes in boxes these days.
And it comes to our building, which is a nice rectangular shape, as a lot of buildings in the city are.
Sometimes people take pictures and put them on their wall in a picture frame. That's a really easy thing to make out of a square.
Also, after work, sometimes I'll like watch a movie, watch some TV. I know everyone's been staring a lot at their computers lately, which usually is a little more of a rectangle, but you can be, creative about it.
Yeah, and our time is up.
Awesome. I made it this time. So
we've
got some boxes, we've got a window, we've got a picture, a building, a pizza box, a robot, whatever else. Anyone in the audience who has been drawing, again, same thing. If you were told, do all of this in 90 seconds, it's a lot more overwhelming than just saying, here's some really basic shapes that you already know, do something with those. And to reinforce that, basically what we're doing is creating simple and fast visuals because these are still going to get the ideas across. Here you can see that there are a lot of different ways to draw a light bulb, and the light bulb that's all the way on the left, that's like heavily detailed, it's got some shading in it. I look at that and I can recognize it's a light bulb, but I also can look at the one that has the yellow behind it, or the one that has the 3 yellow lines above it, and it still reads as a light bulb in my mind. So when we're note taking, we're trying to capture information, and oftentimes we're trying to capture it pretty quickly. So it's figuring out, how can I draw this? How can I really show what I'm trying to say, essentially, but do it in a very fast way?
Yeah.
And Dusty, why do we even use drawing as a tool?
Well, like writing, drawing brings abstract thoughts into the physical world. So it's a way to show others or yourself what you're thinking about in a more impactful way. The visuals help people remember things, so it can be a tool for influence. And it also clarifies information. So we've all said, let's get on the same page here. It's a lot easier to get on the same page if there's visuals, because it just makes things more accessible and easier to understand. It also helps you to have a plan and stick to it. So, you know, maybe you come up with a strategy, you post that in your office wall or on the mirror, so you see it in the morning to remind you of the plan that you came up with. And it's a great way for teams to get together as well. So drawing is super effective. And if you're teaching, it's a really great way to, you know, make the information and content more accessible to your students.
So as we had mentioned earlier, one element of visual hierarchy that we like to use is color. And we thought we would talk more about color today specifically because it's a really, really helpful and very simple way to organize information that you are either presenting maybe to your students, or taking notes on your own, or helping your students in terms of taking their own notes. Plus, we love color. It's just a really cool thing. So here's an example of, Dusty, do you want to talk about this one?
Oh, sure. So kind of like that bananas visual that we showed you earlier, we're going to flip back and forth between this black and white and this bulleted list, and how it turned into a visual that Ink Factory created for a conference, actually. That was, the goal was to learn about different things in healthcare, really. But, you know, the client gave us a bulleted list of information, and we took that bulleted list, brought it to life with a composition that includes that visual hierarchy. So, you know, the more important things are bigger, or they're in a banner, and the less important things are smaller, and they're given the same amount of real estate on the page. So you can see how the black and white is more impactful than, you know, just the bulleted list. And then if you have the benefit of seeing color, the color one is even more impactful because it really highlights different areas and guides your eye around the page. And so this is a way that you could maybe present some information either on a worksheet, or possibly if you're preparing for a lesson, having a poster drawn up before the lesson starts. Adding color as a coding mechanism is super helpful. And we'll talk through that more in the next couple of slides.
Yeah, so when we're using color, just like how we're using anything, we're trying to create patterns with this to help your brain. So in order to create patterns, I'm going to go back to this example really quick. It also helps to just keep it really simple. So you'll notice here, there's only 2 colors. It's just blue and red, varying contrasts of those 2 colors. But by keeping it simple, it helps to create these patterns in your brain, which helps to drive the information. And another example of using color to help organize these patterns is this one, where it was actually 4 different talks, 4 different speakers. And you could use this, let's say, like 4 different topics, 4 different areas of information, and just using the color, one color for each, helps to separate that information in your mind, because you see the pattern of, oh, this title has this one color and everything else related to it is going to be the same color. And this one also is super simple. There's just one color. It's just using the yellow, and all of the information, all of the text, the visuals are all done in like a super dark navy blue. And the yellow still allows your mind to see the pattern of, okay, everything in this square is going to be related to this topic. Everything in this square is going to be related to this topic, etc. So it's a very simple tool to use, but to help organize information as opposed to it just being, again, scattered all over the page. So what we
And
want
a
to
lot
do,
of these
oh, go ahead.
tools, I think, I was just going to say, I think a lot of these tools you already have for note taking. If you're in education, we can go to the next slide. You know, this yellow, that could just be your highlighter, but maybe you just use your highlighter a little bit differently based off of some of the tips that we're giving you. And one of them is going to be how you can draw a banner, which is something that's so useful for any visual note that we take. In that last example, you saw the banner that had, you know, the relevant topic that everybody needed to know. And in this one, we are going to draw a banner, both Sarah and myself. And I think that, Sarah, if you want to walk through how you do it, and I'll be drawing, and then you can see two different ways to do it.
Totally. And I'm going to actually do this one in a color just to show how you can start off. Let's say if you have like a colored marker with you, or even like a highlighter as a simple tool to use. If you do have that and you want to follow along with doing it in color, I would recommend using a very light color. So then you're able to see the contrast between that light color and writing on top of it with a black pen. So what I'm going to do with my light colored marker is draw a rectangle. So two long parallel lines, and then connect them at the end. And if you are using just a pen to do this, you can leave it open, or if you're using a marker, you can go ahead and color that in. Then what I'm going to do is draw two little lines that are right in the center of the short sides of this rectangle, but they're parallel to the top and the bottom. And I'm going to draw two other lines that are going to be parallel to the smaller sides, but they're going to be just a little bit on the inside at the bottom of this rectangle. So it should look just about like this. And then I'll connect the bottom of each of these small lines to the corner, the bottom corner of the banner. So now I have these two like mini triangles that are happening underneath my rectangle. And then I will, from the bottom of these tiny little triangles, draw a straight line that comes out. It's parallel to the top and the bottom of the rectangle, and it's going to be about the same length as that first little small line that I had drawn starting in the middle. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And we're almost done there. I can just decide now how I want the end of my banner to look. And it's very easy to just close it off in another line that is parallel to the small sides of the rectangle. Or if I want, I can make it a little bit fancy and draw two lines inwards until they meet. So it's kind of a concave little triangle thing here, and it gives it that nice little like ribbon end of it. And if I'm using color here, I'm going to go ahead and color in these two sides, but I'm going to leave the triangle open. I'll color this side in as well. And then I can either go in with my black pen that I would use to write, or I can go in with, let's say, like a darker version of the color that I used, or any darker color. So I'm going to do it with a dark green, and I'm going to color that little triangle in on either side. And it creates the idea of space. So that kind of creates a little bit of a shadow, and you can see that there's depth to this banner. And then I can even continue and draw two little lines that separate the color of the top rectangle from the back areas of the banner. And you'll see that Dusty did some banners that are in different kind of shapes. The bottom one is curved a little bit. The top one has like this little other curly thing going on. And it's using all of the same tools that I just told you. So making sure that things are parallel to each other when you're drawing the side parts of the banner. But all that she's done is just take that rectangle, which I like to think of as like a piece of gum, and adjusting it a little bit. So that means that the two sides of your banner, like this little thing and this little thing, are just going to stay parallel or follow the same line as the larger kind of swoop or curvature of the main part of your banner. So this is a super simple way to draw these. And again, these are really great for titles, for anything that's really important in the information that you're presenting or in the notes that you're taking. And you can also decide whether or not, and this might take just a little bit of practice to see what works for you, whether or not you like to write the words first and then do a banner around it, or if you like to do the banner first and then the words on top of it. And that is personally what I like to do. And so now I'm going to write on top of my banner with a black pen or marker here. And it doesn't have an exciting title, but now you know it's a banner for sure.
Perfect. And in terms of choosing if you're going to color it first and then outline it and write it, it's important to think about your tools, because I used a Sharpie, I used a Flair pen, I used this Zebra midliner and also this Tombow, and each of them have different dry times and they interact differently with each other. So I colored the yellow in first, waited for it to dry, and then I went back with the Sharpie, which is an alcohol-based ink versus this water-based ink. And I was able to write in over the dried yellow. So if you're working digitally, you don't have to worry about that dry time. But when you are working analog style with different tools, you do have to be careful, because otherwise it'll smear and you'll ruin your tips.
Definitely. And Kendra had just said that this would be great for a whiteboard. And my tip would be, if you want to do this on a whiteboard, you can totally do a colored banner, which would look really awesome. And then let it dry a little bit. And you can go in either with your finger or with like the eraser of a pencil and use that as your pen, so that you're actually writing the word in, you're erasing the word into the eraser marker. So it's kind of similar to what Dusty's doing right now with whiteout, except that would just be like the eraser of your pen or your finger or whatever, getting rid of the marker to create, again, that contrast if you have a dark color that you've created the banner with. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Banners, we use them all the time.
We do use them all the time.
Yeah. So one of the things that people always say to us is, I don't know how to even start. Like, where do we even start? And a lot of times, you go into PowerPoint or a slideshow, and there's all kinds of different templates. And we've got lots of templates in our brain too, and they're all based off of different visual hierarchy. And we call those sort of templates our compositions. And on the next slide, we'll talk through some of our most common used compositions here at Ink Factory. And depending on what kind of talk we are covering, we might pick a different composition, and also we might mix all of them up. It just kind of depends on the information that's being presented. But the one that we use most frequently is our popcorn composition, and that's the one on the right. And you'll see that it definitely follows the core tenets of the visual hierarchy, in that, the title's nice and big. The topics that relate to the title are a little bit smaller, and then the subtopics are a little bit smaller than that. And there could be an area for, different solutions or summary at the bottom. But basically, you don't have to put any particular topic any place in particular, but it is important to consistently follow the scale and the pattern that you create with color. So for example, the title could be black, but then all the topics could be blue, and you keep that consistent. And that's a really easy way to organize information, and then using scale to create that pattern of hierarchy of content too. And then the other two compositions, the pillars, or the center, as we like to call them, are basically just mixing it up a little bit. So if you're going into a history lesson, for example, and you're going to talk about 4 different things that happen in history, you might go ahead before the class starts, write out the title and maybe the dates of those 4 things that happened in history. And then, throughout the class, you could organize your lecture in those 4 different categories. And it's really the same thing as the pillars in terms of the real estate on the page. It's just organized differently. So that center one is sort of like the 4 corners. But then the pillars one is your title across the top. But then those 4 dates in history would just be in columns or pillars across the whiteboard or chalkboard or flip chart, whatever you're working on. And the pillars could very easily be squares or circles. You can get creative with the shapes, but it's just sort of about taking a moment to look at the canvas that you're working on and think about where you're going to put information ahead of time. And in our sketchbooks, I'm just going to do a little plug for those. We don't have any lines in them because we like to be unruled, and your whiteboards and things don't come with lines either. Sometimes there's grids on them, but this way it allows for flexibility.
Yeah, and I like to also think about it, bringing it back to like the bananas example, and the other example is just as you would, look at something, if you were writing up some sort of an outline for a paper, you would have the title at the top and it would be farthest to the left, and then under it you would tab, and then it would be, another main topic, and then under that you would tab and it would be a subtopic. So it's the same kind of thing, just doing it in a visual way. And here also is an example of the center composition that Dusty was talking about. And it's a great example of using color to organize the information as well as other elements of visual hierarchy.
Yes, this one is I think it's where we live, that visual hierarchy.
So oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that I'm going to put another link to a blog in chat about the fundamentals of composition if anybody wants to do a deeper dive.
Awesome, thanks, Dusty. Yeah, it definitely is a lot of information all being thrown at you at once. So the blog posts really help to kind of dive deeper into these larger concepts. So another way that we can help with organizing the information, in addition to using these colors and in the composition, is using connectors and containers for your information. So you'll even see in this one that all of the titles do exist within a container, and even drawing a banner like we just did is a container for information. So it visually contains the text. And a cool thing that you can do with like the connectors and the containers is that anything can be a container, really. We really like to push ourselves, or at least I like to push myself when I'm taking notes, to try to use really creative containers. So let's say I'm drawing, like a computer, and then there's something that someone says about the information related to this computer. So it's cool if I'm able to write that, or write a main idea within the screen. So anything can be a container. Connectors are kind of what they sound like and what they look like. They're oftentimes arrows, but there's all kinds of different ways to draw arrows. When you're drawing these arrows, again, you're setting a pattern. So we like to make sure that you draw, if you're doing like a cool, like little curly Q kind of thing, you use the same kind of curly Q across the board, connecting the same type of information. And it can even just be a line, as you see in the example with the fruits and the banana and the orange. It's all just connected to the tree using a line. So it's literally what it sounds like. It's a connector. And an example that we really like to show is this right here, which is a board that one of our artists did at the Field Museum in Chicago, if anyone is familiar. They were talking about Sue, which is a giant dinosaur that lives there right now. And so this is a lot of information that the artist was gathering from people who were coming up to her and giving her favorite memories with Sue. When did you meet Sue? And when you look at this board, like the information is gathered pretty well. You can see different elements of visual hierarchy being used. But when you add in the different connectors and containers, now I really know, okay, everything in this area over by when did you meet Sue is going to be related to that. And then everything up at the top where it's what is your favorite memory with Sue, the titles really pop in this case. And then you'll see that there's also a lot of arrows. I'm going to toggle back and forth, that there's a lot of arrows and other different containers that that the artist used on this one to help just get all of that information in the right place and make sure that you know what it is related to and what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
So I'll do just a few more times because it's cool to see the difference.
It's just fun. It's just
Yeah.
fun. And as she's doing that, if anybody has something that you would love for us to give a go at drawing, the next exercise is just to practice a few things. So we probably won't be able to get to all of them, but if anybody wants to throw something in chat that you would be interested in us walking through drawing, that's going to be what we talk about next.
Yeah, and when we go into that, or as we go into that, I do just want to reiterate what we were talking about before, which is that a lot of the things that we draw are just based off of very simple shapes. And oftentimes they might be a combination of those simple shapes. So for example, like the light bulb I was showing you earlier is really just a circle with a square underneath it. So when you're thinking about trying to draw things or what images might come in handy for you, like let's say you're focused only on biology, and so it would just be really helpful to be able to draw like a test tube. Well, what does that look like? It's just a long rectangle that's rounded on, different areas. So just breaking it down in that way really helps me to simplify things and feel like I can draw it really quickly. So that's my pro tip in terms of amping up some drawing skills.
Yes, I love that pro tip. And I'm not seeing anything pop up in chat. So why don't we just go ahead and start with the light bulb, because that is a very commonly used thing when we're taking visual notes as a way to give something a little bit of flair or to convey an idea, or it could brighten something. There's lots of different metaphors, and one thing that's cool about all the drawings that we do is they are visual metaphors, and sometimes it makes sense to label whatever the metaphor is, so you can sort of help your audience with the metaphor by labeling it.
If you draw something and you're like, I don't know if people are going to understand this, or maybe this light bulb looks really weird, just write light bulb, and again, it's simple and it's fast.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so I can talk through really quick how I would draw a light bulb where it looks like Dusty also is finishing up her light bulb over there. So if you want to follow along, you're welcome, or you can just watch. I'm going to draw my circle. So this is a little bit of a lopsided circle, maybe more of an oval. And then underneath it would just be either a square or a rectangle. So that's kind of my like skeleton of how I would draw it. And you can do that in like a light colored marker or a pencil. And then I'm going to go over it, or a color if you want to use a color, kind of like Dusty's doing. She's just filling it in. But I'm going to go over it with black, and I'm just going to follow the outline of this. So I leave a little bit of space for like a curve. And then I'm going to close it off and add like a little bump at the bottom. Sometimes even another little bump. I know there's a lot of different types of light bulbs out there, and a lot of them look a little more like a spiral now, but we're going to stick with this kind of image. And then I'll just draw 2 lines straight up like this and add a little squiggle in between. So again, super simple, not the best light bulb that I've drawn in my life, but it doesn't matter because I'm just trying to convey the information that that is what it is. And it looks like we have a few things that are in the chat. So
yeah, and I can talk through what I have drawn for those right quick.
Awesome.
If people want to look at this paper. So I did some pre-work because I got to look ahead while Sarah was explaining the light bulb. And basically I colored in things already, circles mostly, since that's what we were working for or working towards. And one of you said how to draw people showing emotion. And quite honestly, the easiest, fastest thing to do is to look at your phone and look at those emojis. Excuse me, my earbud just fell out of my ear. That was not the best timing. But so, the emojis are all faces showing emotion, right? So very quickly, you could color in your faces first, and then you just add your details based off of what emotion you want to convey. And, happy and sad are quite easy ones. Maybe you've got starry eyes for somebody. So you could do the starry eyed emoji just by adding stars and the mouth. So that's a really simple way to convey those. And then also we do draw people quite a lot to explain different things. And for people, there's a lot of different ways we do it. We can do it with circles or with squares. Maybe Sarah, you could draw a square person right now in addition to your circle person. But I colored them in already so that they would have shading. But then again, I'm just drawing this person who is maybe, maybe they're like kind of thinking a little bit. And so they're positioned in a way that's like, pondering. And so you can kind of make their face to reflect that, or make these little accent lines. And then I just sort of have that thinking position. And this is all just, circle, elongated circle. These are all just simple lines for this stick figure. And then for this other one, maybe somebody's meditating and they are sitting down in a meditation kind of stance, and you can use these lines to convey their legs, and maybe they're super zen, so their eyes are kind of closed. And those are some easy ways to show a little bit of emotion with people. And then Sarah, what did you do over there?
Yeah, so I got a few people in there too. For one, I just like add a little heart. Maybe they're just feeling grateful or in love or happy, or I don't know, and any kind of thing that might inspire in you. And another person who just has a little smile and they're waving. So that could be happy, they could be excited, they could be all kinds of things too. But over here, I did draw a book, which someone had recommended. And a book, you can see with the green behind it, I first just drew a rectangle, and then I went over it and drew that rectangle again. But then I added a line that was like on a little bit of an angle behind it, and then just some squiggles between that. So that's what signifies like the pages in between. And then I always like to add the spine of the book by just drawing another vertical line all the way to the left-hand side. And then you could write this as, you could use this as a container. So whatever the title of the book is, or maybe it's like the title of the subject that you're talking about that day, or maybe this is where you list like the homework that they need to do, things like that. So a book is a really versatile way to represent things. Yeah, and then one more that I see that just came in is a bicycle. And that's a fun one because that is directly related to our first exercise today, because bicycles are mostly just wheels with a thing attached to it. So also what I'm gonna do right now, which I highly recommend for everyone, is I need to see bicycles when I draw them, because no matter how much I look at a bicycle and think that I know exactly how to draw the body of it, it always comes out looking a little bit weird. So this is a super helpful tool. I'm sure you're familiar with your phone. So what I'll do if I don't really know exactly how a thing looks, or if I don't want it to look weird, is I'll just like literally Google and go to images, bicycle, or I can Google bicycle icon, which will show me a very simple way to draw it as well. If you can see Dusty and I's screen, we just Googled bicycle icon. So I'm gonna look at that, and I'm gonna start it off basically with two circles, which are relatively close to each other. Maybe I did them a little too close, but that's okay. And then it looks like they have kind of a trapezoid shape, but it just doesn't have the bottom of that trapezoid. And then another line that's gonna be parallel to the top one, and I'm gonna connect it here for more of like a parallelogram to the left. So I'm talking in simple shapes here. I'm going to add the petal down here by just doing a little line with a line underneath it. Again, I drew my circles a little bit too close to each other, but it still is looking like a bicycle. And then I'm going to close this off to make these actually into two triangles. A little line here for the seat. I'll continue this line up a little bit and then draw a line that way. And now we have a bicycle, which is a bunch of different shapes that are all just put together. So I hope that helps and simplifies it a little bit.
And just in case anyone doesn't know what you drew, bike, you can just label it. So then we've got just maybe 1 or 2 more minutes if there's anything else that somebody might like to draw. Otherwise, we will go through our last slide of pro tips.
Sweet. Awesome. I think I'm going to take us there to take us home.
Let's do it. So some tips for communicating your ideas visually are the biggest one: practice, practice, practice. That's the one that is hard to emphasize enough, but you're really learning an entirely different language. I think sometimes when people are learning new skills, they think that they should be able to get it in like 5 minutes a day for a week. And that's just not the case. Our artists train for 3 months full time just to get to a point of competency that they could, be a visual note taker for us. And practice, practice, practice. It really does make perfect. And don't be afraid to try things. We love giving and receiving feedback at Ink Factory. It's what makes us learn and grow. We make mistakes all the time, and we ask for help, and getting feedback is a great way to continue the learning cycle. And it's, kind of reflecting on what you've done, which is something that Kendra brought up at the beginning. We also think it's great to start with limited colors. So maybe just start with black and white, and then pick a nice medium shade like the blue on the easel there. And then once you get comfortable with that, maybe add another one. Unless, of course, you're categorizing with color, and then we understand you might need 5 colors because you have 5 different categories. But really use minimal colors. And we recommend always writing your text in black when you're starting, especially too. You can assign importance through that visual hierarchy like we talked through, whether it's with scale, boldness, or color, and using those simple visuals that we just walked through in the exercises. And then finally, we like to think that we can inspire you. So get inspired through Ink Factory's blog, our social media channels. We're always doing different how-tos. We also have a number of courses that you could take on demand if you're interested in that, or we have icon packs that you could download. And there's so many different ways to get lots of free content out there. Kikori, I'm sure, has a lot of different things, as well as we've got a few exercises on Kikori. And I personally follow #lettering, #typography in my own personal Instagram. And I get little tips and tricks all the time, and I love that. And I'm conscious of time, so I know we only have a few minutes left. But we did want to remind you to enter to win our sketchbook, because we would love to send one of you one of these. And also that bit.ly link, I'll pop in chat for that again, and also the icon pack. And then I think we need to just hand it off to Kendra to talk about the challenge. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. So much fun. I absolutely loved that. I was definitely remembering as you were speaking just how important visuals are for me as a learner. I'm definitely a huge visual learner. So I loved your ideas. And one of the things that I think we do so often is attend webinars, get really excited and inspired, and want to practice. And then we leave and we forget everything that happened. And so we want to provide to you a Kikori Ink Factory Visual Learning Challenge, where we'd like to work together with you and help you actually practice some of the things that Dusty and Sarah shared with you today. So just a little bit about that. You are all invited to the Visual Learning Challenge. And what we are offering is, for 2 weeks, we ask you to commit to choosing and completing 3 of the Ink Factory activities back to us and share what it was like. So you know that you'd love to incorporate more lettering, more visuals into what you do, and we are here to support you with that. So the way that that happens is, if you're interested, just put your email in the chat. You can private chat me or send it to everyone. And what we're going to do is, over the next 2 weeks, we'll send you some checkups to help you stay on track, find out what your goals are, send you some printables that Dusty mentioned earlier with some practice materials. We'll give you the opportunity to share about your experience. If you send us visuals, we'd love to share them out on social media. Might even talk to the girls about finding a hashtag where we can see what you guys are creating. And then at the end, we'll also have a raffle for one of the sketchbooks, as well as the icon packs, and a little gift from Kikori. So anyone who completes this challenge, we will give you and a friend a 50% off discount for a membership for Kikori that isn't available anywhere else. And see, so how to join Kikori? It's available on your Android, your iPhone, and the Kikori website. So if you go to the App Store or the Google Play Store, just search for Kikori app. And I don't know if any of my, oh, I love you guys, yay. I'm just gonna put the links also right here in the chat. So it's super easy for you to join. Here's the Google link. Awesome, so there's Android. Here is Apple, and here is desktop. And you can head into there and see all of the Ink Factory activities, 5 new Ink Factory activities. So you just come into the Discover Activity screen, scroll to the bottom to the creators and click on Ink Factory. And then you've got all of their different activities that you can enjoy. I wanted to share with you just one other cool resource that we have, which is also the blog that we put together with Ink Factory, as they were our featured creator this week. And so this is also a free printable that you can take into the classroom with you, or wherever you are working together with students, or just for yourself. And you can click right into the activities through here. And then we've also got some great other tips that they shared today available on this blog. So I'm going to add that into the chat also. And I know it's the end of time, but does anyone have any questions or anything that they would like to know before we wrap up today? Yeah.
Kendra, someone was wondering if they could use their iPad instead of paper for the exercises.
For your exercises?
Yeah, like for the challenge, for when they submit the information for the challenge.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think any way that you're drawing, there are all different types of media as we saw today. But yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. And we use iPads all the time when we're drawing. So if you need any tips on that, I'm sure we've got some stuff online as well about using your iPad for this kind of work.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our teammates does some beautiful drawings on the iPad also. Our artists. So
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We really appreciate it. Love you all, and thank